Hey everybody, this is Brittany here from Surfing Waves of Light, and today I wanted to channel a message for you all around this Easter season, the new year that comes with the spring and the renewal, all these energies that we're all experiencing right now. Here on the East Coast, we're getting some really nice warm weather, and it's feeling like a very warm spring, which it can snow sometimes this time of year here, so it's been really nice. I received lots of messages on the Easter day and that whole weekend, but we were really busy. We got to spend our Easter with both my family and Greg's family. One did lunch or breakfast, one did dinner, so we got to eat all day. It was wonderful. And in those long drives, I was definitely zoning out, receiving a lot of messages. So I took some notes. I know that my guides want to channel more on these notes, but I think some of these points, which the way my guides come through, if I'm not formally channeling, is I'll get little downloads, ideas, and it's like they sort of pepper me with information. So I get a little more and a little more and a little more, and then when I really sit down and channel, that's when they bring the full message through. It's almost like getting the title of a lecture, and then once you really sit down to listen, you play the podcast or you get the full lecture. So just wanted to go over a couple of my notes and then I will channel. I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who is here, who watches this channel. I am so appreciative of you all spending your time, energy, attention, and focus on these videos. I hope that you are receiving whatever you need from them, and just know that I am in the deepest appreciation for each and every one of you, as we're all reflections of each other. So I'm going to start off this video because this past weekend, if you're religious or not, it's a big weekend in the Catholic Christian faith. We have the Crucifixion of Jesus, followed by the resurrection of Jesus. I was raised Catholic. I went to 12 years of Catholic school, grade school and high school, and then went to a public university. And it's there, it's a big season. We saw driving on Sunday a lot of people at church. There's, a lot of religious feeling in the air, some people not eating certain things, and just this honoring. And it was actually funny. I had a surf lesson on Good Friday, and my friend Jen, who I was out with, she's my client and friend, she said that her mom always said that it's never sunny on Good Friday. And it was oddly enough, it was pretty cloudy. And if that just shows where the collective consciousness may be on that day, it was cloudy. It was still a beautiful day, but cloudy. We went out around 1 o'clock. I think that's the time that Jesus was crucified. I'm not 100% sure. A lot of that information, the small details have left. So on that note, what also has been a synchronicity for me is I'm reading a book for my Healing Touch mentorship called The Holographic Universe. So for my mentorship, along with doing 100 sessions for free, I have to read 7 books, one in all different categories. One of the categories is quantum physics. So the book I chose to read was The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. Amazing book. I highly recommend reading it. So in this book, they talk a lot about the holographic theory. I'm not going to go deep into that, but basically what they're saying is that the quantum theories, the quantum studies that have been out up until that point, which I think is the 80s or 90s, show that there is the potential that this reality is a holograph. So in that way, one of the descriptions of a holograph is that the whole of the picture is still maintained within the parts. So you could think of this world that this world is all seemingly separated, but within each of us, the whole is contained, which is something that I feel very deeply and something that they express. So basically, one of the things they were talking about is there's a whole chapter called A Pocket Full of Miracles and the Power of Belief, because our minds, many quantum physicists have shown, play a huge role in what we live out on this planet. So one of the examples they were using to show that it may be the power of the mind and not so much, a religious gift that comes through is people that have the stigmata. So if you're not familiar, so, it's crucifixion time, so it feels like a good time to talk about this, and synchronistically, I just read it. Someone with a stigmata is someone who has the wounds of Christ on their hands. They're open wounds. They maintain themselves, may occasionally bleed. Some of them even even grow like a nail looking like thing. They're all a little bit different, but throughout history and even in present day, there are people who have had these stigmata, and the traditional religious belief around it is that they've been blessed by God, so they get to, bear the wounds of Christ. And I am open to all interpretations. I just offer what comes to me through my connection to spirit. So one of the points the book was making was that they found a lot of people with the stigmata often had the same stigmata as either Christ's crosses, Jesus hanging on the cross, crosses with Jesus hanging that were in their own homes, or crosses that were in their local church. It looked very similar to that. Another point that this author brings up is that if you do a historical look back at crucifixions, it seems that the Romans often did not nail people to the cross through their hands, for that would not be strong enough to hold the weight of the body. It was actually often that people were crucified through their wrists, which I know is not a pleasant topic to talk about, but his point was that if this was a God-given thing, if there was this external source that we were not connected to, then would not the wounds be more historically accurate? Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It just was a very interesting point, and I felt the timing was beautiful and also really dives into the power of belief. And one thing that is known about many of the people who have this stigmata is that they have very strong beliefs around their religious systems. So if you can take that and turn it into a positive, which I think is very easy, it can show that how powerful our belief can be. Now, maybe it was given to them by God, not discounting that. But if someone can manifest wounds that literally stay open, stay uninfected, and remain on their hands as if it's part of their normal bodies for an entire lifetime, what can we use our minds to believe in? And yeah, so I recommend that book if you want more information about that. It has a whole chapter called A Pocket Full of Miracles, when it's showing when people have basically defied the laws of physics as the Newtonian physics that is mostly represented on this planet, has been taught and is widely accepted. So recommend that book. So I wanted to start there because, it was Good Friday and we have that in the air. So then moving on to resurrection and Easter. So here's the notes that I got on Easter. So I was listening to the Law of One, and the Law of One talks about how our heart, there is an inner sanctum and an outer layer. And the heart anatomically is designed like this. You have the pericardium that goes around the heart, and then inside the heart, it's like the sac that holds it, is the different aorta and aorta, that's not the right word, atrium and ventricles. Thank you. Thanks. So one thing that the Law of One talks about is how we have these two layers. And so my guides really went deeper into that. And it may even say that, but they expanded, I believe. So part of our existence in this reality is exploring the two yous, okay? We have the inner sanctum. This is the part of us that is unconditional love, that is God, that is source, that is universe, whatever you want to call it. Then we have the outer personality, and this is our personalities, the being, the physical, incarnate people on earth. So what they said for me was, my outer personality is the Brit, right? I'm Brittany, so the Brit. Who is Brit? Who is Brittany? What does she do in this time-space reality? Who did the creator create with this being? So what was the creator thinking, aka me, in a different form, not separated? What was I, but us, thinking when they created this being? And what was the intention for the highest expression of this being? So for me, I don't know exactly what that is, but that is the development of this life, is how can you take steps toward becoming the highest expression of yourself, of the Brit, the personality, the loving aspects, while simultaneously enjoying the journey. So another aspect of that outer sac is that's where all of our darkness is, right? In my Brit personality, that's where my ego lies. So this is where, I get jealous, or I get angry, or I get resentful, I get hateful, I get self-deprecating. Those are all part of the Brit personality. So there's even a dynamic there in, can we live out the highest expression, but also can we comb away at these lower frequency expressions in order to allow more light in, and in living out the highest expression of the Brit that the Creator intended. They say, can you see the Creator in all beings, including yourself? When we live out that higher expression, that is how we get closer back to our God selves, because really we're working into our God self. So what my guides were saying as I was daydreaming in the car was like, how can we explore these two simultaneously? Enjoying the journey of being Brit, being these aspects, seeing those unloving sides of ourselves, acknowledging them, and then working through them with compassion, love, all those things, while also knowing ourselves as divine, knowing ourselves as Creator, knowing that we're already at peace, we're already God, that there's nothing we really need to do. But right now, when you wake up in this reality, we do need to face what is right in front of us. So this is what's in front of us. Whoever you are, the Brit, the ego, that aspect, we still have to face those things and clear them. And as we clear that outer aspect of ourselves, we allow more light in, and then I believe the two become one. So I feel that there would be no better way to honor the Creator than living out the highest expression that was intended for its creation, even in this dualistic world. And I believe that's how we create the happy dream, as the Course in Miracles asks us to do through our forgiveness work. So, who is the one who can see all things as one? That's the inner sanctum. We can see everything as creation of spirit, of God. We can appreciate, have compassion for, and understand, and integrate each aspect into the wholeness. So not only in appreciating our outer sanctums, our outer layers, selves, but seeing every aspect, even the things that are bad. I went to Wawa and I got a Slurpee the other day. I grew up on Slurpees. I love Slurpees. And, I know it's not the best for me always, and I do a lot of effort to eat really well. But in that moment, I looked at that Slurpee and I said, I can see the Creator in this, and I can really appreciate it for what it is, even in this dualistic world. So how can we look at everything and be aware? Of course, we're not supposed to eat toxins all the time. Can we be aware of it, but also see it as the one, as the whole? Everything is us, right? So it's not always 100% clear to me, but that is what is some of the information I received on this Easter. And then they also were talking about COVID. So we had this big pandemic, a lot of rules and stuff in the air, stuff on the news. It was very prominent in our lives, and it sort of slowly creeped away. And so what my guides were saying, that there was such a beauty. They love it. They love the pandemic. We're all about it. At the time, I was in a lot of resistance to certain things. My guides were loving it. And what they were saying on Easter was that what COVID showed us was these extreme polarities, right? We got to see ourselves in this extreme polarity. Whether you wanted to or not, I am not confrontational. You had to put yourself behind something. You either had to put yourself behind masks and all these different medicines, or you kind of had to choose. There was this choosing that we had to do. And it was very extreme. But the beauty about extreme things, especially on this planet, is that a lot of times we are not in tune with our subtle energy fields, our subtle messages. So what happens on Earth is these extreme events, and these extreme events force us to pay attention. So whether or not we're receiving that guidance from our guides and teachers, from our subtle bodies, from wherever you think we get information from, it gave us this really big message. And our subtle guidance is really disconnected. And so when our guides and teachers are trying to facilitate experiences and messages for us, they often do this by sending really big messages so that we're forced to pay attention. So because our subtle guidance is disconnected, a lot of times we have these big events on planet Earth, and they are there to help us to see what is in need of healing, see that shadow, and come to healing. So that's the end of that. I did my best to summarize it. The video cut off. So now I'm going to click to the channeling I did and enjoy that channeling. It goes hand in hand with everything that I just talked about. So, all right. Sorry, the video froze a little bit. So I am now going to channel my guides. If they have anything left to say, I definitely feel like I was channeling them a little bit there, but I really just wanted to show you some of my notes that they, they gave me. I love being bored. I love boring meetings. I love boring car rides, because at those times, that's when my guides can come through. Fortunately, my boyfriend Greg loves to drive, so I usually can just write or think, or really, I don't go as deep when I'm driving. That's another story about my driving. But yeah, so I'm going to channel them for you now, and I hope you enjoyed the messages so far. Know that even if my eyes aren't closed and I'm not trans-channeling, I'm still receiving messages. I think part of growing spiritually is being able to receive messages wherever you are. I mean, that is the norm, truly. We are always receiving. I feel like I'm always receiving, as long as I'm open to it. Sometimes I'm angry or upset and I am right, and I'm not open to any other guidance. But anyway, so let's see what the guides have to say. Greetings, dear beings. It is the energies of the Arcturian Council and the Saint-Germain, and we are here to deliver our love, our appreciation, and our oneness with you. You see, this being can bring forth our messages. She is able to express us in any form, and it is sometimes not as eloquent as we would say in this very focused state that we get this being in, but nonetheless, the messages are received, and so we are appreciative however they get out. Even if this being is not able to formally sit and channel as she is in this moment, we appreciate her taking the information that is in this non-physical realm and bringing it into form, whether through speaking, writing, channeling, expressing, however it is that she wants to bring this information. That is okay with us. You see, we want to show you all the fun that you can have when you connect with us. We want to show you all that we are not strict. We are not militaristic. We are not unflexible in our expression. No, in fact, as non-physical beings, we are not trapped in a body. We are not stuck in one time-space reality. And so for us, flexibility feels natural. It feels normal. It feels a part of the higher expressions of freedom, one that you all are not necessarily experiencing at this time, but may be experiencing in this lifetime if you are able to master your mind, if you are able to come into that full knowing of yourselves as God, as source, as divine, as unlimited. For words limit us, and yet unlimited is what you truly are. And so we speak to you today because we love you, because we want you to know that there is nothing that you have ever done or ever could do that would make us not love you. You see, there are many teachings about the sin and the guilt of beings on your planet, and how a particular being needed to come in to this place and die for other people's sins. And yet, we do not see this information as always serving the highest good of each being, for it traps you in the sin thinking. It traps you in the guilt thinking. And the guilt, the shame, the suffering, these are all points of attraction, we will say. So when you have these ideas in your mind, conscious, subconscious, or unconscious, they become a point of attraction. And so whether you feel you're using your free will or not, you will continue to attract situations that will exemplify that guilt, that shame, those lowered emotions in your day-to-day life. And so the forgiveness work is so key on this planet that we express it over and over and over again, not only through this being, but through many of the channels that come through at this time. For this is a new time on earth. This is a time of openness. This is a time of freedom. This is a time of knowing yourselves in your highest expression. As this being spoke before she brought us through in this formal way, you are all having the opportunity at this time to know yourselves in your highest expression. Who are you when you are not living by the dictates of society, when you are not believing that you are a sinner, that you are full of guilt, and that just your existence on this plane requires some sort of lower frequency expression? No. This is a time of coming into your highest expression of self. This is a time of becoming who you really are. And who you really are, it feels so good. And this is a place where you can connect to the divine from that good feeling place, from that expression. It is only in the shoving down of your emotions and feelings, the blocking, that we are not able to access you, because you are so crowded up with those energies and they affect your subtle field. So you may not receive a loving message from us because you are too inundated with unloving messages from your subconscious or unconscious, from these beliefs that many of you took in before you were really able to make decisions. For free will is not fully expressed on this plane until you are a little bit older, until you are, well, it evolves in degrees. When you are about 7 years old, you begin exemplifying more free will about what information you take in, and yet your world is still so small based on the separated experiences you're having that it is not until, at least for this being, she was graduated college that she really began expressing her free will. And even in that, she had been so jam-packed with ideas about becoming a professional and getting a job and potentially buying a house and finding a husband and having children, that even then free will is so distorted that we use this word very carefully. And yet you do have free will within this realm, within the distortions. And yes, this plane is a distortion in and of itself. So it is just distortions on distortions on distortions that each and every one of you are navigating. And so there are different levels to the understanding of different concepts of where you are and where you're going and what is needed in that moment. And this is yet another reason not to judge. This is yet another reason to forgive. For every being is going through this evolving process. And because you are all one and yet separated, you are all wanting to experience the different elements. So some of you came in and said, I want to come in and be a staunch Democrat in the American system. And others of you came in and said, I want to experience this evolution as a Republican or as an atheist or as a religious being or as a spiritual being. And the beauty is when all separate and experience all the different avenues, when you come back together fully as one in the conscious acknowledgement, even from that separated form, you get to take those experiences and you can all experience them through that divine connection. You can know what it was like to be all aspects of this experience in that state. In this current experience, you mostly experience only what you see and hear and feel and sense and touch. And yet, when you allow beings to evolve in their own way, learning their own lessons and in their own manners, when you come back together, almost as if through means that would be hard for us to explain, you can touch an experience and you can live it like a holograph, like a simulation, like this experience is in our best ways of explaining it through the words that we have access to in this being's consciousness. There is so much on your planet that is unknown. There are so many experiences that are unexplained, and yet your mainstream science often sticks within its fine boundaries of what is believed to be true. And yet, even through this being proceeding with her healing touch work, her energy healing, her mentorship, all of these things, she is getting to witness miracles every single day. Seeing people set an intention and then bring on a process and allow that process to be the action for the intention that tells us up here, not that we're really up here, we're really in here, but for the purposes of your experience. Up here, it tells us this being wants this. This being has an intention to heal. And so we see that as permission to bring through these miracles that seem to be few and far between, and yet can be the day-to-day life of each and every one of you. You all can experience your separated consciousness from a miracle-minded perspective. You all can set your intention and then release it and allow for time and space and the intuitive, intelligent guidance of us to bring these intentions into full force, into full expression for your experience, so that when all the beings come back into the oneness, they can experience your holographic experience. Check out my life in the third dimension during the 2020 era. See how I was able to both experience anger, upset, and miracle-mindedness. Isn't that amazing, dear being, that I was able to experience all of these different things at one time? And it is beautiful in its own way. And we appreciate whatever beauty we can find in these dimensions, and yet knowing that this entire thing is a distortion. So much of the teachings you have all received as young beings are distortions. And so the highest expression of yourselves is in pushing back these distortions, working through these distortions, sometimes experiencing in the fullest expression these distortions, and then through that experience, knowing it is not in alignment, knowing it is not love, knowing it is not who you are, and from that knowing, being able to integrate and move forward in the evolution of your consciousness. This is a journey, dear beings, and just like the third dimensional to-do list, which always seem to have the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, the driver registration, the insurance, this check, that bill, this grass maintaining system, this water sprinkling system, this oven broken, all of these things that continually come, that is the evolution of consciousness as well. It is a continuum. And if you set your course to forgiveness, if you set your course to coming back to oneness, to reconnecting with God in the fullest of ways, then that is your eventual destiny. And yet we always inquire to each and every one of you to enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, be present in each moment, be with whoever you are with, and acknowledge whatever feelings come up. good, bad, or ugly. Allow yourself to be these ego expressions of anger, hatred, guilt that are so shoved in that a lot of them are trickling out really quickly. And then also forgive yourself and know that it is not you. You are not this outer personality. This being is not Brit. She is playing the role of Brit in this lifetime. And through the intelligent prescription of this universe, she has a role to play. And yet she knows that this is like a video game. This is a holograph. This is not so real. So she can always forgive herself. For love is unconditional. Love is eternal. Love is expanding. And it never ends. It never blocks out. It never does the things that occur on this plane. So rest in the knowing that you are one with your universe, with your creator. And yet you have a role to play on this level as a being, as a personality. And part of that role is experiencing these distortions of lower frequency emotions, expressing, allowing, seeing yourself in those positions, knowing you don't want it anymore, and then releasing it, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, in however is best. And when you call us in, we can help you to release these things in the most pleasant ways possible. Some of you have deep traumas that will not be uncovered all at once, for that would overwhelm you. But yet we can always facilitate a process that is gentle, a process that is loving, a process that is kind. That is what we are here to do. We are here to express love even amongst the distortions that exist on this plane and help you to know yourself as love. And when numerous beings across this universe begin to learn how to express love, to reconnect with that part of themselves that knows love as it is, that is how this earth changes. That is how the consciousness changes. For in a holographic universe, the consciousness of the planet is merely just the ideas that each individual consciousness brings to it. So it is not some physical thing existing out there. No, it is within you. And so do relaxation, do meditation, do time when you can go within and start to experience your inner world, the good and the bad. And know that any bad you are experiencing, any lower frequency emotions, those are there to come up, to be seen, to be loved, to be forgiven, to be healed. And that is the work. So be in joy when you see a jealous part of yourself, an angry part of yourself, a yelling part of yourself. Be in joy, because every time you express, that is coming off your plate a little more and a little more and a little more. Watch for that backsided guilt many of you feel. This guilt that was expressed highly in the religious context. Watch for that. This being for many years was afraid to be mad because she knew she would feel so guilty afterwards. And so she shoved her anger down and she people pleased and she made sure everyone around her was okay, and never really expressed what she wanted because she always felt that in the expression of what she wanted, she would feel this heavy, heavy guilt. And that guilt would hold her down as well. And so in that way, her understanding of her religion really put her in a trapped emotional place where she just continued to stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff. And it wasn't until she began working with the subtle energy healing therapies that she was able to begin releasing. And it wasn't until she learned that she was not guilt and sin, that she, in her truest expression, was unconditional love, that she could begin to express who she was, having the courage to make a mistake, and knowing that she did not need to feel guilty forever and ever and ever. You see, the being who came to this earth, who was crucified, died, buried, and rose again on the third day, this being was showing you what is possible. He was not wanting to trap you all here in sin and guilt. No, he wanted to show you that no matter what you've done or what has been done to you, you can rise again in the knowing of who you are, in the knowing that you are loved unconditionally by God. And there is no limitations to what you can do as a being on this beautiful planet Earth, in its expression, in its distortions, in all that it is. And so we say to you, know yourself in the highest expression. Begin to learn who you are. Begin to release the angers, the fears, the resentments. For once those are released, you will begin to see the loving aspects. You will begin to express the loving aspects. You will begin to live the life you always wanted, one that is not distorted by the prescriptions of this mainstream universe, one that comes from within, that comes from truth and beauty and goodness and the one creator. And that is the freest expression, and the one that the Arcturian Council and the Saint-Germain are keen on expressing through this being. Her mission in this life is freedom, complete and total freedom, and that includes the releasing of this body. And so we are on the journey with her and each and every one of you to come into your spirit self, to come into your freest expression, the one that is full of joy and love and hope and wonder and all of the beauty. So we thank you all for listening to our Easter incantation, and we are sending you all the love, all the light, all the joy, because that is how we feel about you. No matter where you are, no matter how down and out you are, we see you and we see your potential. We see how good it will feel to go from the lowered emotion to the expression of pure love. And the journey of that in itself is one worth taking. We will speak to you again at another time. All right. Wow, that was just felt so good. The energies on that one felt so good. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I never have a sense of time, so sorry if this was long. I think it was a great channeling. I really enjoyed it from the back seat. So yeah, I think our mission is clear. We need to figure out what we had in mind when we created ourselves. Who is Brit? Who are you? What is the highest expression? What gift do we have to offer to this universe? And that is what we're meant to do. So last thing, I just have a few housekeeping updates. I have not been super active on my Mighty Networks page for a while. I was going through a lot of stuff within myself and my family and just trying to get my life together. So I am back on the Mighty Networks. If you would like to join my Mighty Networks, I would love to have you. Right now, I'm using my Mighty Networks as a bulletin board. This is where I'll be posting all the things that is going on with Surfing Waves of Light, updates about my life. I'll post the videos that I post on YouTube in there. So it'll basically be like a bulletin board. Would love for you to share. Let me know who you are, what you're interested in, what you like, what you don't like, but no pressure. Just if you want to go in there, you'll see the events that I'm doing. You'll see, any new channelings or whatever. So you can join that. I'll put a link in the description below. Would love to have you. Would love to know who out there is interested in this work and is enjoying it. But it's pretty minimal. It's just a way that you can decide if you want to basically receive emails from me or not. I know that an email subscriber list is the most important thing, so you can join my subscriber list. I don't currently send out emails though. I was guided to try this way, so I'm trying it. So if you want to know what's going on, you can set your own email preferences. You can come in, you can comment underneath. It's kind of a really nice way. You can also see who else is in this community, as sometimes the spiritual community in our physical lives can feel few and far between. So I know it's getting bigger and bigger for me every day. Every client I work with, every person I come in contact with that is excited about spirituality, channeling, messages from love, it's growing. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you all that. That's how you get updates from me. Join the Mighty Networks group. Let me know who you are. And yeah, if anybody wants a channeling, a private channeling, a surf lesson, a healing touch session, having amazing results, I am going to be, with permission of clients and under anonymous circumstances, maybe posting some quote unquote session notes from those from the session, so you can see what some of the intentions are, what's some of the experiences of the beings that are receiving the healing touch, and what's some of the outcomes in their life are. Some of the stuff's really powerful. It's amazing. It's a gift to be a witness as a receiver of energy and a channel of energy. It's just been a huge gift. So love you all. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your spring, to this real new year from the real calendar, not the, Gregorian calendar. LOL, Greg's my boyfriend. And so love you all. Thanks for listening.